No, not so much.
Nothing is stopping me. That is correct.
And the obligations.
We can go with that. Why do I have 10 Outlook tabs open?
Taking out.
Then?
Yeah. That seems excessive, especially since I use this most for recipes.
Out your email?
The tablet.
Oh. It's like, how do you look up recipes?
Well,
No.
I have a Google.
How many recipes do you need for queso?
Who's emailing you?
I-
Really good one.
I keep them myself. I make some great Thai curry soup.
So
Chicken
what
ramen,
day?
beef ramen.
That's right. Add some red curry powder.
Delicious.
All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Call the meeting to order with the determination of a quorum. Councilor Baumgartner, Evers, Ferguson,
Here.
I'm here, Patterness.
Here.
We have a quorum. Call the meeting to order. Right now is the time where we'll enter into the public forum portion of our meeting. This is for the regular meeting. This doesn't directly concern the comp plan. Anybody wishing to address council, now is your time. We ask that you provide your name for the meeting record. Speaking times will be limited to 3 minutes. So now is the time to come forward if you want to address the council. Not seeing anybody in-house coming forward. Is there anybody on Zoom looking to address council? Okay, not seeing any participation on Zoom, so we'll close the public forum and begin with the approval of tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made by Evers, seconded by Patterness to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda's been approved. We'll go through the consent agenda quickly. We have meeting minutes from January 16, along with work session minutes. We have a resolution accepting the transfer of property from the EDA to the council or to the city. We have Resolution 20 amending Resolution 10 approving a step movement for Jody Gilberts. We have Resolution 21 approving hire of probationary firefighter Ellen Bergquist. We have Resolution 22, the confirmation of fire department leadership appointments. This includes new chief Kevin Morris, new secretary Brady Revere, new treasurer Nate Erickson. These people will be taking the batons from Chief Tim Sehusen, Secretary Dave Altman, and Treasurer Joe Ryan. We have Resolution 23, the formal endorsement of the Olivia Fire Relief Association Retirement Plan. Resolution 24, appointing our election judges and setting wages. 25, acknowledging the Olivia Ambulance Service, Inc. has designated the Olivia Golf Club as their gambling premise. Authorization of employment to Axel Zaragoza as the on-call part-time police officer. Authorization to accept transportation grant agreement for airport improvement, excluding land acquisition. State Airport Fund grant agreement. We have a purchase order to JT Services from the electric department. We have annual service agreements with Cintas for the liquor store, water wastewater plant and public works. And then we have our January disbursements. Okay. So that's a consent agenda. I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Evers to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Okay, so this is the only time that this appears on tonight's agenda. So I'll begin discussion here. I just want to thank Tim and Dave and Joe for their decades of service to the people of Olivia in your officer roles at the Olivia Fire Department. Recognize the the fire department as this brotherhood, one of the most functional and fantastic teams that we have the absolute honor to have as neighbors, serving our community in the public safety realm, and just really want to thank you on behalf of our neighbors here in Olivia for your service. And it sounds like Mr. Susan is going to stay around for a couple of years, so just really want to thank Kevin and Brady and Nate for stepping up and taking the baton into the next 2 decades I think you signed up for. So thank you guys for moving forward in leadership roles.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys. All right, all in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries as written. Okay, we'll move on to the business items. We'll move into the portion of the comprehensive plan. Today we have Antonio Rossel here to will walk us through the comprehensive plan process here. And why don't you just take it away, Antonio?
Thank you very much, Mayor Hawkinson. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for inviting me to be with you tonight to discuss a little bit of the comprehensive plan, how we got here and next steps for it. I have a brief presentation. I know that I have probably about 15 or 20 minutes to provide the introduction, and hopefully then we'll get some comments. So I will start by sharing my screen, and that way, oops, Elizabeth, I think that sharing has been disabled.
Jasmine's working on it.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Think
just
you
be
make
one
co-host.
quick second, I think. Okay, wonderful. It's been enabled now, and my screen should be coming up in just one quick second here.
We can see it.
And I'm going to hide loading controls. So this is just a very quick overview of the plan and kind of the process we've gone through. And I'm going to be showing several images. If you don't see the screen progressing through images, let me know, because sometimes it doesn't work as perfectly as we want it to. So what I have for you tonight is, again, just a brief introduction, a quick discussion of next steps, and time for your questions. First of all, and I know that we've had this conversation now for about the last year and a half or so, but for those who are maybe joining us for the first time, what is a comprehensive plan? Well, the city has one already. You have one that was completed about 10 years ago, but they have to be updated every 10 years because they contain a vision, a long-term vision for how a community grows and develops. It guides action for your city departments, for your city leadership, and for your partners as well, so that you can implement changes and improvements to the community. It's the foundation for your zoning ordinances, for your housing programs, etc. And as I said at the beginning, they look 20 years into the future, but are updated or replaced, I should say, with a new plan every 10 years to make sure that it is the most current assessment of existing conditions and have the latest ideas for how to move forward. Your new comprehensive plan, which is in development yet, we will bring it to your consideration, I think, in another few weeks. But the plan we've been developing, the draft that has been up for public comment and review is a version from December 22 of last year. And I want to highlight that the way that the plan was developed, in one of the first activities that we included was a set of engagement activities with the Olivia community. We had in total about 700 people participating out of at different events, of course, at Cone Capital Days. We also had a public workshop, and we had a quite extensive online engagement component with 2 online surveys, so that people didn't necessarily have to come to an event that we were hosting in order to participate. So there was 2 online surveys where we got well over 500 responses. And then we had the images here on the screen. It's what is called a wiki map, which is kind of like a Google map where people are able to put ideas and comments and make recommendations for what they would like to see, what they would like to change, and things that they're appreciating about Olivia today. We also met with a steering committee over the life of the project. This is an image, of course, at the Corncade probably about 3 or 4 months ago. I think it may have been our 6th meeting or our 5th meeting, I'm not quite sure. But this is a group of Olivia residents and involved officials who reviewed some of the recommendations as we were developing them before they made it onto the December 22nd draft that is up for public review. The comprehensive plan, the new comprehensive plan, includes these chapters. And I know that there's quite a number of different items here. So this is a really easy way to think about them. There's an introduction that also includes an executive summary. That's something that at a study session we had with City Council was requested. So we have an executive summary to the plan, and then a set of introductory chapters that provide, for example, what is the vision for the plan? What is our population? How did the public participate, et cetera? So that's the introductory section. The recommendation sections is really, in a way, it's the purpose of the plan. These are the specific recommendations for what we want to do, what Olivia wants to do for land use, for housing, transportation over the next 10 to 20 years. Thinking about those and, what do we have today? What are some of the things that people are telling us they would like to see, and how do we get there? And then the final chapter has to do with how do we actually begin to implement these ideas over time. And so there's an implementation plan and also a set of recommendations for increasing engagement. The very final component is an appendix that includes every single comment that we received from public engagement. So all of that work, all of those conversations that we had, and all of the information that people gave through the online tools, for example, all of that is included there. Now, when we talk about your plan, I want to make sure that we talk about the plan document itself and also the planning process. And the process that we use for the plan had a very specific foundation and a specific goal. And the foundation is making sure that we connected with members of the Olivia community so that we received from them their ideas, their aspirations for what they want to see, and opportunities that they see. And so engagement is the foundation. And we use that engagement to develop a vision for the plan and how the plan the vision of Olivia 10, 20, 30 years from now. What does it look like? How should it work? What should we have then that we don't have now? What should we have then that we have now and that we want to keep? That's all part of the vision. And so that vision we then used to develop a set of ideas for what is the future land use, what is the future of housing, what is the future of transportation for each of the chapters. And again, the vision from each of these is what we then use to develop recommendations and to develop goals. And of course, there's the recommendations come from that future vision, and they also come with best practices, from current best practices, from different initiatives and ideas that we have learned about in other communities that are being successful for them. And so it brings a lot of that information, but the overall orienting north to all of them is what is the vision for our community 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future. So that's the goals of the process. Now, for the goal for the plan document itself, what is the goal of the plan? What do we want this document to do? We want this document to be helpful to the city in continuing to build quality of life for Olivia residents. And we do that because the people who are here, of course, want that, to have higher, better quality of life, but also because it invites the people who are living here today and the businesses that are here in Olivia today to stay. We want them to stay. And we also want to invite new residents. We want to invite new businesses to come into the city and to help grow the city and to help maintain it and have it be a prosperous community. And so that's the goal. And the way that we approach that goal is thinking about all of the different components or systems of life in a place, schools, jobs, safety, entertainment opportunities, opportunity to be part of my community, the parks, the beauty that I'm exposed to as part of my daily life in Olivia. And so these are all components that we try to bring into each of the chapters with the idea and with the goal that we want to have a great Minnesota small town, hometown that includes all of these, because that's what's going to grow quality of life for people who are here today and for other people that we want them to come in and be part of Olivia and help grow Olivia and help make Olivia more prosperous and more inviting, etc. Now, I just want to give you a quick set of kind of highlights about the plan. And first of all, I want to, for those who are not or may not be very familiar with the plan, I want to, one of the features of the plan that we thought would be helpful is to make sure that the recommendations chapters are all organized in a consistent manner, so that when you want to find information about parks or about transportation, and not just a person as a citizen of Olivia or as a council member or as a staff person, but also as a developer, somebody who is interested, or a business owner who wants to invest. How do I find information relevant for each of these arenas? So each chapter of that recommendation set, they are organized consistently. Here we'll take a very, very quick look at, for example, the housing chapter. The housing chapter, the first component is going to be an introduction. And again, this is consistent in all of those chapters as an introduction to each of the arenas, right? Each of those topic areas. And that begins, so there's an introduction, and then we provide what the vision and goals are for that chapter. So what's the vision? What are some of the goals for that chapter? There's additional information, of course, in that introduction, but that's the very first thing, the vision and the goals for that housing, transportation, parks chapter, etc. That's the second component. So we would call it the point 2 or whatever chapter we're in, goes into the existing conditions related to that system. So for example, in housing, we're going to, part of the existing conditions is going to be, well, how many housing units do we have in Olivia? How many are occupied? How many are vacant? How many are ownership housing? How many are rental units? Where are they located? How old is the housing stock? What's the number of bedrooms, etc. All of, what is the typical pricing? What do they look like? So that information, we've selected information to provide that context in your existing conditions for each of those chapters, same in parks, etc. The point 3 component of each chapter, we thought is really important for the plan to bring the voice of people who participated in the planning engagement into the chapters themselves, because this is, it provides the justification. It is the justification for the recommendations that are made. We want to make sure that the recommendations line up with what people are saying are priorities and what they see as issues, etc. And now, of course, it's not all of the engagement that we receive, because we received a ton of engagement, but these are just kind of summary charts and 1 or 2 comments that we selected in a way randomly to be put in here. And it's part of the reason why we want to make sure that all of that engagement information is available with the plan, and that's why it's referenced in the appendix, because we want to be respectful of that community voice, and we want to show what it is that Olivia residents told us they want for their community. So the point 3 component of each chapter is a sampling of community engagement. Then we move into the point 4, component where we identify opportunities, or what we call opportunities, but what we think are ways in potentially achievable changes that could be done to address some of the desires or some of the aspirations that people mentioned. And, these are maybe a different or a new practice in the community, maybe looking at a different way or a slightly related but slightly different way of doing business in a specific arena. And part of the reason why they are here, as well as in the recommendations in some cases, is that the opportunities provide us a little bit of space to describe them more fully so that they can be useful to your city staff, to your city leaders, to residents, to developers, etc. And one of the issues of course, it has to do with, and I should have, maybe I'm gonna go back just one quick slide. So here is, for example, what we heard. So this is the point 3 portion of the chapter. So you can see the charts in front of you. And, one of the questions and a comment that we got all the time, is there a need for more housing in Olivia? Yes, 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 there is a need. We need more housing in Olivia. And then if people said, yes, well, what kind of housing do you think is more needed? Well, we need entry-level single-family homes. You can see how that builds in the number of kind of what people elected to tell us. And so we want to make sure that we address that in the opportunities and in the recommendations. How can we develop additional entry-level single-family homes? How can we provide for greater accessibility to affordable housing? How can we help homeowners maintain their homes, etc.? So these help to guide what the recommendations are. And of course, in these little talk balloons that you see that people are saying, well, we need new houses because we have key employers who are not able to grow because we don't have enough housing options. Last time we needed to, we didn't find suitable housing, etc. So here in these opportunities, there's, for example, some ideas related to how it is that we can help affordable entry-level housing occur more easily. What are some strategies to reduce costs, etc. And the section is extensive, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But you can see other ideas related to, for example, here, housing rehabilitation, also talking about potentially allowing for living accessory dwelling units, etc. And through the plan, you will find that there are a lot of, you can see them on the screen here, highlighted in blue. What those highlights are, of course, are hyperlinks that take you to resources where you or city staff or elected officials can click on and then go to a resource that will provide even more information. So that's the point 4 component of each chapter. The point 5 component of each chapter, which is the final component of each chapter, that's where we have the actual recommendations that are going to be, what we're kind of naming them and kind of sequencing them and saying what are the things that we ought to do. And so we have a number of goals with strategy. So the goal is what we want to do, and the strategy is how we get there. So you'll see that in each of the chapters. And as we're developing or presenting recommendations, as we're developing those recommendations, depending on what chapter it is, of course, we want to provide enough detail to have it be useful guidance all in a single place. So you don't have to go through the whole document, but you can find, for example, what land uses are being recommended, if are we recommending that the city grow or not? If so, where, how, etc. And so, we have, how about downtown? Do we have recommendations there? Yes, we have some recommendations there. This is just highlights from the land use chapter. And of course, then in that same land use chapter, which is the chapter number 5, a number of recommendations there to address that, all those as well. So if you want to, just get a quick sense of some recommendations that are in the plan, in the executive summary, there's a really quick sampling of, I think, 3 recommendations from each chapter. It's very early on in the plan, but of course, the detail, you want to read the detail, especially if, if you're a representative or, or a developer or a city staff, you want to make sure that you are most familiar with the entire document. So what are the next steps for the plan? We have public hearing tonight, and I believe that public comments on the plan, I think the hearing tonight was advertised for about 30 days or so. I believe that a public comment period we'll close it officially tomorrow, as we're also receiving comments via the city's website and have been receiving comments via that tool as well. So the public comment period will close officially tonight, but I think we'll probably receive maybe some comments tomorrow as well. So maybe at the end of tomorrow that will close, and then we'll update the plan to address comments where necessary to address them. And if we're not updating it to a comment we've received, we'll provide explanation for why. Maybe that it's contrary to some other components of the document, for example. But our goal is to make sure that the plan is reflective of the comments and guidance. We've also received comments from your commissions. The Planning Commission, for example, has provided comments, and so we're working to make updates to the document to reflect their comments as well. My understanding is that once we complete those comments, we will provide the chapter for the planning, the document for the Planning Commission, and they will consider to see if they recommend it to the City Council. And then after that is complete with their recommendation, the City Council will consider it for adoption. And so with that, I think I took 19 minutes for my run through there. So I think I'm still within time, but I would like to know if you have any questions or if there are comments on the plan. So with that, I think I should end my presentation and come back and join you. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Any questions for Antonio? Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any questions from council? Any questions from staff? Right now, we'll take some time to receive public comment, specifically regarding the comprehensive plan. If anybody is here virtually or on site to address council, while we have the resource of Antonio present, regarding the comprehensive plan, now is your time. Again, when you come forward, we ask that you state your name for the public record. So if anybody in-house is here to talk about the comprehensive plan, okay, Ross.
I guess I just have a question. A lot of the stuff that we've heard over the years that needs to be addressed by a comprehensive plan for the city is pretty basic knowledge that everyone has. And it hasn't been done for years until we spent, money and time to invest in getting a document before we can take action. I understand there's channels you have to go through city government, but one, why was it so long? Why did it take so long to get a new process started for a new plan? And two, why haven't there been more push for the things that we all know the community needs in that time prior to needing a written plan that says everything that we all know needs to happen?
Sure. Perhaps I can address, sometimes we have things that come up, for instance, the RO treatment plant that we have out at the water treatment situation. Now, that wasn't something that was forecasted in our comprehensive plan 10 years ago, but the affluent levels, the effluent levels proposed by the state were changed, and we had to adapt faster than the comprehensive plan allowed us to. So I guess the comprehensive plan is a guide guide work for moving forward, but it definitely, you know, if things fall outside of the comprehensive plan that need to be addressed, we still have the flexibility to address those things. And then was there a concern that you kind of expressed that there was too big of a gap between the comprehensive plans? Did I hear that incorrectly?
Well, it seemed like there was a lot of time where nothing was being done to progress forward. So we fell behind the 8 ball on a lot of this stuff, mainly the housing developments. And I know that, you know, certain construction costs and the way the world is affects that. But it seemed like there was a lot of just treading water in this time. And it feels like this process of getting a new plan in place is more treading water before any action is actually being done. Just with the presentation of going through, we, in my opinion, had a presentation explaining what the process of the plan is. And there wasn't much in the presentation to give clarity of any direction. I know that's coming, but it seems like a long drawn out process that we're still treading water when we should be taking more action and trying to get stuff moving forward instead of waiting for it to happen.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close down the public hearing on the comprehensive plan and reopen the regular meeting. Thank you again for joining us, Antonio.
Thank you very much, Mayor, council members, citizens of Olivia. Thank you for the opportunity to work with you. I'll stay in contact with Elizabeth and other city staff to get the final updates completed, to get the document in front of you. Thank you for the opportunity to be of service to your community.
Thank you. And here we have with us some representatives from Mike Marcus Construction to give us an update on the planning process of the City Hall Public Safety Facility.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Mayor, council members. Appreciate you having us here and taking the time out to review these plans. I did.
Can you identify yourself for the record?
I am Cody Blevins with Marcus Construction, and here next to me is CJ Singer. I do have printed out budget sheets for you all, as well as updated plans if you just want me to pass these out for
Thank
you.
you.
I did send these ahead of time with Elizabeth. Everything is largely the same. There's maybe just some minor tweaks, but depending on you guys looked at the plans. But everything that's changed on it as far as the budget is related is highlighted in green on the budget.
I want to say the budget was sent like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So you didn't get it on Friday.
No, we've been sharpening our pencils all week on
Thank
this
you.
and really trying to get it to a number that we feel confident in. There might be a little bit of sticker shock when you see the number because it is over that 2.5, but there are some caveats built into that, and we certainly are happy to walk through why some of the things look that way. And then I've got a couple extra sheets here for you if anybody else specifically would like one. Please, guys, no, you guys want to take a look. There you go, absolutely. So the way we've set it up, really inside of the drawings and this estimate is everything that you've asked for, everything that we've talked about, some additional things that we've included that we feel are just being good stewards to you all as our clients, and everything that you want turnkey, right? So the number that you look at reflects everything that's shown printed, and that number is going to be 2.68. So we'll just call it 2.7. That does include right now a $50,000 ad for a dry system, a dry fire suppression system. What the dry is versus the wet is, we talked about last time how you would be required to sprinkle the entire facility, the new and the existing. The dry system is specifically for above your attic space. Because you have the wood trusses on your building, it puts your building from a type 2 construction into a type 5, which is just a lot of talk for it can burn easier and needs more fire protection. I did chat with the local building official and then have reviewed these drawings in a way, so that's reflected on the second page. I reviewed them and spoke with the code official in a way that if you include a little bit of extra insulation above the deck, we call it fire stopping, you're going to be able to avoid that dry sprinkler system. So that's already a $50,000 decrease from the number that you see on here. They've just been kind of conversations with him. He feels pretty confident that you guys wouldn't need it, but we didn't want to exclude it entirely because he really hasn't seen our full plans. He hasn't reviewed the work that we're doing. So by the book, everything should be good without the system, but we did want to include that in our number just to kind of capture some of those potentially unforeseen costs that might come as you guys do construction. So our big number right away includes that. Our big number, the 2.6 number, also includes a 3% contingency. We feel like we could potentially remove that at the time that we do a hard bid, but it's just factored in there right now. Percentage to a dollar is about an $80,000 ad for just contingency monies. That's unforeseen, things that come up during existing constructions, things that nobody can see until you kind of break into the walls. But that is figured on there as well. So you got a couple of big ads there. And then the other things, I can certainly just let you digest a little bit and look through them. Like I said, everything that's highlighted in green has kind of been an add or a change since the last time. There are certainly items in there that you could take out of your project without really losing too much. One of the things that I just mentioned to Elizabeth before coming was there's like a $17,000 increase in epoxy flooring for the new police garage and the utility room. That's just kind of an add. It's above and beyond finish that you typically get. The durability is there. We think it's going to be a good product for you and it would serve you well. But if you don't want to pay for that now, or you say maybe we put that in later, that's really quick $20,000 we can just take out of there quick. So more of the green items that you see added are things that you all have requested since the time we've met last. A big one on the bottom of the second page is the soffit and fascia on exterior building because of your re-roofing and changing that color. There's another $22,000 for making the rest of the metal fascia and soffit on the building match that. And then the 3 additional garage doors too that we put in there to replace. So to make the new ones match the existing ones exactly, they'd all be new. So those are kind of numbers that we can talk about as well. And then the number you see for those 7 garage doors, those are all black garage doors. That's probably a 15-20% more for it being black than any other color. But we did just want to include it that way because that's kind of what's preferred by everybody. That's how it looks in the renderings, and that's kind of what we talked about last time. So we left that in there. There can be a bit of a savings too if you just change the color on some of the things too. And I don't have too much specifically to kind of talk through in terms of what we've added. We've really just tightened up these plans and got them through the 100% design development phase. They're ready at this point to be solicited for an RFP to an outside architect, where they would coordinate with their consultants and kind of give us a number back to this. When we release it out for hard bid, we would send that out to multiple disciplines, get hard numbers on it. You could definitely see this 2.6 number decrease just by having somebody actually look at it. These numbers that you see here largely are historical data. Some consultants who we work fairly close with have taken looks at it in different aspects. But for conversation's sake, these haven't been floated out by individual disciplines and reviewed by people who are doing the work. So it's really just us giving you a number that we feel confident in. And we're both here to, talk over some of these things, why numbers look the way they do, or hopefully there's not any plan changes, but, we can talk to you about anything and make you guys feel good about where we're at, or there are questions that you guys have.
You guys have questions for Cody or CJ?
You run down the 179D.
We did we talked to a couple of different engineers about the 179D. Kind of response that we got back was, yeah, we've got the capability to do this, but to get you good numbers, something that they feel confident in and could actually materialize, would have to be done by like the contracted engineer of service. What ends up happening is for them to run those numbers and understand what the energy savings are going to be, they've got to select very specific units. They've got to model those systems into like a 3-dimensional software. And then through ComChex and some other softwares, they spit you back numbers and energy savings so you can actually materialize those, right? And then that's just kind of out of the scope of what we've asked anybody to do at this point. However, it would be certainly available and you can run down those options at this next step. And we can certainly write that into our RFP that way. I think that's a really important element to capture because we only want qualified individuals or companies that are able to do that sort of energy modeling for us to ensure that we're either going to be spending the money and it's appropriate or it's not worth doing at that point. That's something I definitely wanted to hit on. Thank you for bringing it up. The last part of that is we don't know exactly how you're getting taxed on those. I know you pay wholesale electric rates, but that advantage or those rebates come in the form of tax advantages, right? So if you're not getting taxed, you would have to have an agreement with your engineering service or whoever's providing that service that they're going to either do the work for a reduced rate and then they themselves collect those rebates, or they do it as if the rebates aren't happening. And then once they get the rebates, they like gift them back to you. So there's a little bit of, red tape we jump through there, something that if you guys are interested in pursuing, we just make sure it's written out clearly in our RFP and we pursue it like that.
Kind of on that subject, is there any chance that pursuing these rebates will make us less competitive?
In terms of like your overall price. Yeah, I think there's potentially going to be an ad. Some of the systems that you talk about doing with the heat pumps, that's stuff that I think makes a lot of sense. Most people would. It just kind of comes down to what it's going to take to renovate your system, right? This is an existing building, so it's not as easy as just kind of comparing this system versus that system. That's maybe a question I can't answer at this point. I'm very confidently for you. I thought there was one more thing I was going to say on that. Oh yeah, the size of the building. We had one of our mechanical engineers run just some really high level numbers, and he was thinking that based on the rebate amount, and that was mentioned in that email, he thought you could get up to like an 18-cent kilowatt hour savings, which based on the square foot of the building is like $15,000 savings. So if you take that $15,000 and you look at what it's going to cost you on the front end, it's maybe $3,500 to $4,000 for that service. So then you're down to saving $10,000. That could very easily get eaten up in the extra cost of equipment just to get there. So you're almost at a wash at that point, is how an engineer has laid it out to me just at a preliminary standpoint. So not impossible, but just, is it worth it for you with the monies you have right now? Is that an avenue you want to pursue, or is that how you best feel they're spent? Similarly with the electrical number at the bottom of the last page, we did actually get an electrical consultant to run a design for us, a high efficiency design with some of those extra pieces of equipment in there, which are largely like occupancy sensors, switches and meters that just make sure that your lights are turned off as much as they can. They're dimmed, they respond to the sun, that sort of thing. That's a $20,000 ad if you elect to pursue all of that additional equipment and install. So, to be green in any category, there's certainly an upfront cost with it.
What's the electric car charge tax?
The electric car charge is, that was a request by you all as well, just to price out 2 electrical car vehicle charging stations in the police garage. So the 22.2 you see, that's for both of them. So it's a little over $10,000 for each one of those stations installed. Something I talked about with Elizabeth to get that number basically erased right now is, maybe you're not ready for electric cars right now. You don't need to put in $20,000 into those stations. By the time you get the cars, those stations might already be 5-6 years old, out of date. It'd be really easy for you just to run the conduit, run the electrical piping up to where you want those to be. And then at the time when you decide to go electrical vehicles, or maybe there's some rebates built in from the state, then you jump on it at that time, you put in brand new stations, you get the cars all at one package kind of deal.
So this line item above that, that's the occupancy sensor.
Yes, sir.
Line item.
That's correct.
And that would be the entire building would be updated with those
Yes, ma'am.
sensors?
Correct.
I like that part. I don't think.
Yeah,
the
I-
Car chargers.
Exactly,
Well,
same.
no, and like all you need is a 50 amp 220 service to charge an electric car. So that's all I wanted to have, was just have in the panel enough space to add the breakers and then conduit running out so you can run that.
Okay, sure, and we
Sheet. It's
and we
not
can
very
rewrite it
expensive.
that way.
Yeah. I don't want to buy it. You don't need to buy any station. The cars come with a charger.
Just run it for future use. Have it all set up for future use.
Oh, I'm not sure I understand.
Enough space in the electrical box and
Oh,
conduit
yes.
running out there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I mean, I installed mine at my house for about $300.
Worry about that.
So that's what I'm getting at. It's just running electrical service.
Exactly. Seems like a want, not a need.
Definitely.
All right, one at a time.
We want to eliminate wants.
All right, any other line items to focus on here?
Why do we
So-
decide on black doors?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Okay, you got a black roof.
We have black roof, so the insurance is replacing the roof and we couldn't match the previous red.
I mean, look,
Because it was faded and no red would match it. So we chose something that was more neutral moving forward, hence the black. In the first rendering, the fire doors were left red, which is what they currently are. And it was discussed at staff, it would look nicer, cleaner, more modern if they were all the same color. Obviously, if the council feels differently and would like to go with a different color, we can look at options, but that was the direction moving forward.
Staff didn't want green doors with a big yellow O on it?
You know, that wasn't really.
Hey, you could do them like.
Well, we just did solid color doors.
corners. Good idea.
What's wrong with white?
Dirt. But white is the cheapest color I've been told. So if
Like
white's
that,
the
like
need.
You got the police bay doors like a taupe.
Yeah, well, those are supposed to be white, is maybe just kind of the color that you're seeing. That was a little bit intentional too. Another kind of cost exercise we wanted to put in front of you guys. The 7 doors that you see are those brand new 14x14, they're black. Maybe, yeah, the line item down, that's the 12x12, those ones are gonna be white. So if you just divide that out, right, and you lump sum it, those black doors are, what do we figure? They're $12,000 a piece? Maybe? No, 12 is gonna be those, 12 is the white doors. So
What
you
kind
got,
of cost savings is it if we want a more
Yeah. Where are
general
we on the
color?
sheet?
We're at the top of the page.
Yeah.
Egress doors.
Egress doors.
Be the.
and so those are $18,000 doors. For I mean, they're a little bit larger, so it's not apples to apples, but
Yep.
you're getting, those are $18,000 versus a $12,000 for the white door. So you're gonna save a few $1,000s per door, changing them to white, and that's another thing. Some people, you say, yeah, it's a few $1,000s for black doors, but you're gonna have that look, and it's really in style right now. Some people say, yep, do it. Other people, no, we'll take them white, and that's just kind of your preference, is all.
It'll fade to gray in the sun in the next 10 years anyways.
It's north facing.
They got pretty good coatings these days. We try and similar like your anodized roof. I mean, that's not really gonna phase. That's an anodized finish. We try and spec things that are similar. As an architect, I love everything black, so I'm looking at black products all the time. And we're gonna try and give you stuff that.
We did discuss doing the whole.
stand the test of time.
And we went away from that because that was a lot of extra money.
Yeah, Elizabeth talked me down from that.
Do white doors give anybody heartburn other than potential for dirt?
No.
I'd say if we need to reduce costs, no, but if it's only a couple $1,000s in the scheme of 2.6 million, I'm not
Right, I think.
terribly
black looks
concerned
really
about
nice.
it.
I like the black.
We're 30% over the budget we set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that was already above what Matt wanted
it's true.
Matt's
by
not the
double.
Commanders.
I know, but
And my vote was 2.5 to 3, so
Right.
we're right under. Right
That
in
was
the
said
bulk
from the beginning.
of what I would assume would it be. It takes some major cuts to get to where an extremely conservative number would
Well, we're in the ballpark now,
We're in a good ballpark, I think.
and we're presented with options to fine tune things right now. So let's focus on those options and not what our,
You said all the things highlighted green here are,
Those have been changed or modified since the last time. Not all of them are explicitly added, but sometimes the number changes, square footage is changed.
Can you explain to me the section at the bottom that says exclusions?
Yep.
That's just subtotals.
The exclusions, let's see here. Make sure I'm on the right section. Does it say exclusions on there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the exclusions there are just anything that we haven't included. So we don't have anything included right now for like our architectural stamp. Marcus doesn't intend to stamp these, so that's excluded. And take them through the last phase of design. Street improvements, we're not really considering anything outside of your building except for a stoop and a little bit of sidewalk. But otherwise, any additional water service you might need, any additional paving, stuff like that, none of those are included right now. The tax is currently excluded because we're not really sure how you all are taxed yet, so we've
We're
elected.
still tracing down that
You elected
information.
to
I'm
exclude
forwarding
that.
Emails to USDA.
Any landscaping that's just kind of goes more into the street, site improvements, we're not figuring any landscaping right now. Any additional equipment that you might want is not included, and that's really limited to what you do not see on the plan. So like we're thinking extra lockers in your new engine bay. We haven't included anything there. Furniture, we're not including any desks, any tables, any chairs. As far as furniture, I think, we've got your casework, your countertops, where they show on the plans. We've got a steel workbench that was included in the police garage that was asked for the last go around. And that's really the extent of furnishings, if you want to call that furnishings. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of the other one that's on the next page is the prevailing wages. We don't have that cost included in here.
Yeah, you see how we put that on the last page, so you might not see it.
But the landscaping should be fine because we're not changing where we already have landscaping.
Correct, yeah.
And we're not adding any new landscaping.
That's correct. Mhm. And
So we could save that money of not doing landscaping and get the black door.
Well, except there's no money in here.
There's no
for
money in-
landscape.
I know, see, that's why.
We
We
don't
had
add
had it,
on.
we could have removed it, but we don't. have it. Let's just get
already
the-
took care of it for you.
Thank you.
Now, well, I mean, this is working out well. Your comments are alluding to, we've tried to just make this as simple as we can for you guys and literally show you everything you want. This is the price that it's gonna be. If you want to whittle it down, then it gets kind of hard, right? Because everybody wants the different things, but you gotta have the hard conversation, wants and needs.
all right, let's make a decision on the door color.
what is the cost differential?
$6,000
Outdoor?
total.
Pretty close.
I have a question.
Yep.
You're talking black doors.
Yes, sir.
I thought the roof sitting out there was weathered bronze.
Midnight bronze. Midnight bronze is, it's essentially black. Your doors the way that it's drawn in here is to match midnight bronze. It's essentially black. Just for conversation purposes, we can all say black, but midnight bronze is, if you go anywhere and you see a black building, it's probably midnight.
The midnight bronze.
Yeah.
I thought it was
We
weathered.
should have led with.
Sorry.
If we go with midnight bronze, people are gonna think we're getting snooty in here.
Isn't bronze patina over time?
It kind of depends on the manufacturer. It depends on what they actually mean by bronze or like an oil rubbed finish. Every manufacturer is a little bit different. Your roof sitting outside, it's gonna be more or less black. Black.
So what is the total cost for these black doors versus white doors?
18 versus 12, is that right?
It's 18,000 per door for the 14 by 14 doors. Right now, it's $12,000 for a 12 by 12 door in white. So I don't know, you could, I guess, average that by the square foot. But at the end of the day, at the same size white versus a black door, you're gonna probably pay 15 to 20% more.
And so if we went with white, we'd be saving like $36,000 on the whole project.
Is it potentially? Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the exact number, but yeah, you could black things out of quite a bit of money if there's a lot of them.
We're breaking your heart with this conversation, Cody?
No, not at all. It's your building. It's your building.
Yep.
Is that the same as white?
On all products. Who knows? We put up a 24,000 square foot liquid facility and the owner out of the blue said, no, I want a red roof. I want the whole thing to be red roof. And that was a $60,000 ad for a red roof. And that's more or less the same finishing process as it would be for an aluminum door or anything else. It just kind of has to do with that specific vendor, what kind of colors they can have in like their standard form versus where they need additional process for that. A lot of the time you see that on the blacks and the darker colors. But everybody's a little bit different.
So potentially red.
Yeah, I mean, red is like,
Back to red.
yeah, red could be, you're maybe paying 10% more than the white door, but it's not as cheap as a white door, if you want to say that.
I just see white as sending a message when people drive by that, hey, we tried to get by cheap. Yep. That's what I see.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with City of Olivia, but this, as far as I'm concerned, my time here is kind of a corner piece building. It's one of the first buildings that I notice as I'm driving through. You get the restaurants, you get some of the other stuff. This is an actual occupied building. It is a kind of a monument to your city, a testament to your city and the fire department. Everywhere you go, a lot of the times in rural Minnesota, they're volunteer fire departments, but the community, the people that work in them have a lot of pride. They're huge garage doors all the time. So, it is public facing as about as much as it can be for a city building. And oftentimes we see people kind of put that money into that facade, especially. Not saying that's what you have to do or whatever, but just historical trends. The people of the city usually get behind something like that.
Yeah, those are good remarks.
And we're tied into this black roof. for
Yes,
The insurance.
the material is in our parking lot.
Wonder what
I called about that before we made it all black.
Yes.
The epoxy floor, that's 17,000, it's not actually necessary.
Right, I agree.
I don't know about ceramic wet walls, but
Didn't we have OPD staff in here saying it was necessary or we weren't gonna do it? Or like, isn't that part of like the evidence locker or something? I don't remember.
don't care which subline.
Didn't you guys request the epoxy floor in your evidence room for some, like, so it was non-slip or something to that effect?
Yeah.
So I mean, that was decided that it was a necessity, like.
I mean, we actually don't have, per this plan, we don't have epoxy flooring shown in the evidence room or the shed. I just left those as the sealed concrete.
Okay.
Got a little bit of cost out of that. If you added that square footage to that epoxy, I mean, that's not really a big add at all.
So is sealed concrete okay for the evidence room?
It's for the garage. It would rather be the epoxy.
Okay, yeah, that's how I have it drawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does the epoxy get you over a sealed concrete floor other than the look?
It's a broadcast product, so you lay down an epoxy resin and then you broadcast your epoxy flakes over it. It's not a silica sand. It's like a chipped epoxy, so epoxy flakes. It's visually, it's a little bit similar to like a Menards system that you might see, or you walk into somebody's garage and they've got the little flecks everywhere. But it's a very high-end product compared to anything you can get over the counter. It's a 3-layer system, very durable, shock resistant. It's able to handle thermal shock and all of the different instances, police vehicles coming in and out, dirty, snow traffic, foot traffic, all that sort of stuff. This is a product that's going to hold up to those commercial needs.
So it's slip resistant?
It is slip resistant, yes, sir.
So would the concrete be?
Yeah, I mean, the concrete, yeah, it would be slip resistant for sure. If it's the middle of the winter and you've got your icy vehicles that have been out on patrol all day, you come in, and you're moving around fast, say, or you're moving evidence, it's certainly more of a slip hazard just having the concrete. But again, we can save a little bit of money. Maybe you just want the concrete with a broom finish or a trowel finish instead of a smooth finish. That's gonna get you that slip resistance you need for the time being. Maybe in 2 years, you say, okay, now let's put in this epoxy. Now let's put in a different product. A broom finish or a more rougher finish, concrete is gonna be able to take and absorb that, and it's gonna look the same at the end of the day when you put a new finish on it.
Never been impressed with epoxy floors myself. I don't like them.
Have you ever seen one done by a professional crew?
I haven't seen a high-end one that I know of, but it doesn't seem like you gain a bit of aesthetic look, but it's not safer. It doesn't do anything other than
I thought it
you
was
add a little layer. No, they're brushed concrete. I mean, like when you walk on the sidewalk. That's,
Yeah,
slippery.
a concrete is a great example. That's like a broom or a brush, kind of more like rougher concrete finish.
Yeah, but after time.
It's,
Yeah, so-
I mean, yeah, it takes several years. After time, eventually it might smooth down a little bit, but in 10, 15 years, maybe after 15 years, you'd see it's not as.
I guess my
Foul.
first question is the salts coming off of our vehicles in the winter deteriorating
We can put
their product.
we can put in admixtures into concrete too, to kind of help counteract some of those things. It's just an admixture. It's not, and it can be integral to the concrete. It's not as good as that next level exterior protection that the epoxy gives you, but there are certainly measures we can take, we can design in there to get you the functionality that you want without the overboard price, without the full epoxy in there.
yeah, it seems to me if you just had a concrete floor, you let that wear out and then 10 years down the road, then you say, okay, now let's put some epoxy on it.
It drains in there, so it's not like it's gonna sit either. And, ruin the concrete.
And we do have, it's broken out somewhere. I've got slot style drains put in there. Those are a little bit of an add compared to a traditional like trench drain. There's something that hasn't been around too long, so you don't see them in a ton of places, but they're a real slick, really clean design. Both clean and visually and clean in terms of like your garage floor. They're not visually obtrusive at all. You pretty much don't even notice they're there. But we do have the trench drains figured in, and I think if you go to a we have the slot drains in. If you go to a traditional trench drain, I think you can about cut that number in half. If I find it on here. Might be on this back page. Yeah, the U drain in lieu of the trench drain. So you have about a $4,500 savings there if you were to go to a more traditional drain.
What's the functionality difference?
In a slot style drain, you look at your floor, you look out in your garage floor and you see about a 1-inch sliver running along the length of the floor, and that's your drain. It's got a box on one side that you can pull out the box, you run a tool through it and completely clean it out. If it ever gets like obstructed, I've never seen one be obstructed. A trench drain is anywhere from 6 inches to a foot wide, that same length, and then you can just individually take out those little trenches.
Just grading.
Yep, it's just grading, so over time, that lip can break. It doesn't look as nice because they can get a little wonky in there over time, or things get stuffed in them and then they don't completely sit right. I mean, I'm talking them down a little bit. There's nothing wrong with a trench drain. It's just not as it's not as fluid.
No, it's a garage floor.
Yeah. One thing too that shows up is like the cost of those drains. A trench drain costs less, but it takes probably 2 or 3 times as long to put in too. A trench or a U drain, slot style drain, when the concrete's wet, you set it in there and then you're good to go, you're done. So there's a little bit of savings in the labor side of that too. Which is why I do a lot of like liquid storage, chemical buildings, a lot of agricultural stuff. I try to put those in more and more because it's so easy for the guys in the field to put them in and then forget about it.
Can you draw or can you render what white doors would look like?
Sure. With the black roof.
Yeah, just to see, send that out if it's.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, it goes right.
And then reviewing these costs, we kind of just want to jump out if there's anything that's jumping out to you that we want to change right now. but we're also not, you're not set at these. If you guys come back later on and want to make changes, that's no problem. It's just the more accurate we get this right now, when we send it out to subcontractors, the more accurate it'll be when it comes back.
Yeah, you can nix the electric car charge packs. I just want to have the electrical service
Yeah,
available.
we'll change that to just have a service.
Rest of you guys okay with that?
Yes.
I mean, in general, everywhere that we can cut cost, I think we should talk about. I don't want to do stuff. I don't want to get pushed into might as well too much. That's, I want to try to control the cost where we can. And if we're going to spend more for something, I want it to be a good reason. And, you know, maybe black doors and making the building look nice from the outside. Maybe that's a good reason. But I want to discuss it and not just get pushed into extras when it's not providing any value.
Yeah, I was definitely sold on the white doors, but I do appreciate the chief and Cody talking about how this is, I don't want this to be some sort of temple, obviously, it's kind of what we're going away from, but we do need to make a statement to potential investors in this town too, that we want to be aesthetically pleasing at least.
Cause I'm pretty sure everybody knows the white doors are cheaper,
Mhm.
you know?
I didn't.
I'm sure you did.
I didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, don't get a rip all
You
those
know
black doors
everything
off.
that's cheaper, quit lying.
Amazing things with paint nowadays. You probably just paint them.
Well, that crossed my mind as well.
You wanna volunteer?
What?
Hire painters?
Can we run down what red doors cost? It's the
Yes.
fire truck
Yeah.
that goes in them.
Sure. Yep. I'll give you a rendering with red doors, white doors. We can get different numbers on them.
I mean, as much as I understand the white doors look cheaper, it's also a responsible use of taxpayer money that to not spend more than.
Yeah, because if you say, I mean, $36,000 savings for white doors versus black, I mean, that's a large
substantial.
enough number, it makes me think.
But it's also what you're gonna let people see that,
We're not marketing for someone to buy the building.
I know you're not, but also you are trying to show how much you care about your city and like one difference. I mean, look at everything else that has already been taken out.
I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever looked at a city hall and said,
I have.
that's why I want to move to
have.
this build.
I
this
have
town."
looked at city halls. I have looked at fire. I mean, they're memorable. You may not pay attention to them. I have a lot of pride in fire departments and the city, what they do, whether it be Olivia or any other city. And it's one thing I notice about a town.
We'll
And
take
it
a,
says a lot about that town.
thank you. We'll take a look at the options and resume the conversation after we do some renderings and some other places.
There is a big number in here somewhere, at the tune of about 52,000 or so. I'm not seeing it in the, for the casework. It looks like Division 12.
Lounge,
Yeah.
upper and bowl cabinet, Division 6 wooden plastics.
Okay, that's in Division 6. That's why I'm not seeing it. So, that number jumped up because at the end of the last meeting, as we went through and said, yep, some casework here, some casework there, some casework there. Got to be more than we had anticipated originally. So that's a pretty big number, that 52,000. That includes completely redoing your kitchenette on this side too. So if you decide that kitchen's good as it is, it's just for employees now. We don't need to renovate that. You know, there's $12,000-15,000 you're saving there too. And then maybe you start to look at where casework is at throughout, if some of those can stand to not have it or what have you. But that was another item that kind of stuck out to me as jumping up pretty big. I think if you ask me, I think that's a good investment of money because everybody needs storage space. Everybody wants counters. But that is an increase from last time too.
And you had mentioned the sprinkling system, and if we put in more insulation of a particular type, we don't need to have a sprinkler, is that?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that. The building official is leaning towards that. I'm not gonna tell you for sure because I'm not the one stamping it and coordinating with him on that. But the way I've reviewed it per the book, I mean, we're not gonna need to, there's no code out there that's gonna make you. What the deciding factor is, you know, he asked me, are you gonna be doing any work to the roof? Well, no, not really. We're gonna cut back some existing panels to tie in our roof to your new roof. Some building officials say that is roof work and they would make us sprinkle it. It sounds like Darren isn't that way. You know, he said, I'm completely fine with you guys voiding that. And that's the conversation we had. So I feel good about it, but people change their minds, right? Or people forget conversations. And I felt it was important to include that number in here.
Sprinkler numbers in here?
Yep. So
What
that
is that?
50,000.
Any other line items to adjust?
Well, I would appreciate maybe if you added another column next to here, and then if you just pointed out ones you think that are, you know, things that could be.
Sure.
nixed.
Yeah, easy,
Yeah.
kind of low
From
hanging
your
fruit.
standpoint as the architect engineer on it, you know, it's.
Or perhaps adjusted, if not completely next.
Sure.
Yeah, I could send you some notes on this. You know, I'll just take it back and review it. I could send you some notes that have my thoughts on them, just a little more collected so that you guys could take a look at them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on the right track when you were talking about, you could not redo the kitchen, that would save X amount of dollars. I mean, those are the kind of things I'd really like pointed out so that
Sure.
we can think about it, talk about it, and, you know, don't be afraid to say, and maybe you don't need X, Y, or Z thing, and just say, this would be the cost savings, so then we can discuss what we want.
Is there anything else that we can do to help move forward?
Well, if we're cutting all that stuff off, is there any way, or planning to cut a lot of stuff off? Is there any way we can look at lockers at maybe giving the fire department new lockers? Cause don't you need new lockers?
David?
We have lockers in the locker rooms. We've got 3 lockers each in each police locker room. In the new engine bay, we have no new equipment lockers.
I thought that was a need that you guys had, was the lockers.
It's neat.
You need lockers, you know, just like basically a line along the whole length of the building.
Well, we had talked about the wall separated, new addition to the existing, putting 15 on one side and 15 on the other.
So would you take out your existing lockers that you have and replace those?
Yeah. 'cause
Okay.
There's no airflow.
Yeah, they're.
Okay. We can have those.
I sent you these all all those times.
There was no questions. How many of these
Good
things are in there?
Okay, any other details?
Could you just speak through next steps of the process?
Yep.
/ deadlines.
So our next steps, you know, when we all kind of land on where we like the drawings. Our next step is to write out an RFP, request for proposal, and then we're going to issue that to a couple of architects that we've selected that we feel would be a really good fit to carry out and finish this project based on our relationships with them. We're certainly happy to offer it to any architect that you all see fit to, or anybody that you'd like us to send it to. We're happy to include them in that. But the idea is we would write a narrative, we'd collect all of the necessary kind of items that are really important to you all, like some of the 179D and some of those energy design factors we need to include into there. We want to make that really tight to get you guys super qualified and similar numbers. So we're going to draft up that. We would issue that to our selected architects, and then they would respond to that proposal with their own collected consultants. So we'll send it to, say, 3 architects. They would select their own structural engineer. They would select their mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. They would submit to you back a completed proposal with a price that says we can complete the last step of design, you know, for X amount of dollars. And then you compare that with those hard bids against this budget. And we might be right spot on. We might be a little bit over, might be a little bit under. I think we do a pretty good job, and I'd like to think that you're gonna be happy at the end of the day when that decision rolls around. You know, we want this number, again, to look like something we're comfortable with, to make you guys happy at the end of the day. We don't want any surprises out of you guys. We like lower numbers when they come back better than higher numbers too, so.
So meeting the demands to get that tax credit.
Hmm.
Is that something that most people would normally purchase anyways, or is that above and beyond what like, is that gonna be more expensive?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a loaded question, right? It's because it's about like the temperament of the city. It's what's important to you all, right now and into the future. It's what's important for your citizens. I would ask you, like, in the next several years, is there anything like in the works that's cooking right where you're going to charge your citizens a lot more, or you're going to require them to decrease their energy usage? Like, are you calling the kettle black if you don't do it? That's kind of where I ask the people to look inward and say, you know, if the city was here, if everybody in the city was here right now, right? Are you calling the kettle black? Are you doing things that you're also asking them to do to continue the same kind of message through your community? That's what I would say.
So it would be something we should do anyway, whether or not we get the tax credit. You're saying.
I think it's certainly worth investigating and having an engineer spend the time to tell you and kind of put it on paper. These are the kilowatts you're saving. These are the monies that you're going to save. And I personally, I'm not in the right field to do that for you.
We need more information.
Yeah, in my mind, the way I see it playing out is you'll pay some sort of premium for the high efficiency equipment. Let's say it's $1,000 more a unit, and we need 10 units. And then, you know, but it would save
Yeah, roll eyes.
$500 a year in
In the long
consuming
run.
less energy. So then that's a net positive in less than 3 years. You paid for it, and
Yep.
now you're doing better than you would.
And what I can say is energy requirements are only going to get more stringent, right? So if you're taking proactive steps now, that's only going to help you in the future. You're looking at sort of a heat pump system that's more it's closed loop. Those are easier units to replace if they ever go bad. You're replacing $1,000 unit instead of an air handling unit or a giant furnace that's going to cost you more. It's going to take out more of your building when that's getting replaced at once. So there are some niceties built into it that way as well. It's just kind of, they're difficult things to talk about because there's a million different ways you can heat and cool a building, right? And you just kind of got to put all those pieces together and see where it's working. And there's certainly a lot of fine tuning when you start to tell an engineering firm, we're looking at these, how do we make this most efficient for us? They're going to fine tune those things and do all that work to deliver you a similar sort of package or system.
Are we at the point where you have enough information to move forward with an RFP or?
Absolutely, I believe so. You know, what you're talking about, black doors versus white doors and some of these things. When we go out for hard bid, we can write these things in as alternates to provide you a price for both of them. What I don't want to do is, I don't want to leave here and then like the next day send you my collected thoughts and then have to like redraw a bunch of this, and then we're going to send it out and you only get that price. Like, you don't know what could have been. So I wanted to lay everything out in front of you to kind of understand to you guys what's important, what's maybe on the fence. And then as we write that RFP, we can change some things in these drawings to make those match, but we'll write out, you know, these things are alternates, provide this as a price alternate, provide these as the base bids. And then that's just saving a couple weeks in that process for you guys.
Keep it
Yeah.
moving forward, so.
I feel listened.
Hey, we're trying over here, we're trying.
You'll not argued against at least.
So I mean, if we were to talk about just a couple of things that are gonna be alternates, if I was gonna make a list, sounds like the door color is an alternate. We could just include in there, get those prices.
Mhm.
We could get an alternate on the epoxy flooring, say this is with epoxy, this is gonna be with like a broom trowel finish. That's a pretty easy one.
Wood package.
Maybe those
Casework.
the drain thing needs
Drain.
to, another one of those.
Trench
meant-
versus. The other one.
Oh, that 52,000 for the base and upper cabinets. Is that like like base contractor grade cabinets and?
No, I mean, they're not like high end, top of the line, but they're a commercial grade, they're a quality, product that,
Something that'll last.
yeah, you're gonna be happy with it for sure.
What are ceramic wet walls?
So we've only included right now, we've included tile floors in all your bathrooms and then just tile on the wall up to 5 feet where code requires. So any wall where a fixture is coming into it is required to be tiled. So we've kind of got in there like the minimum hard surface or tile requirement for you right now.
Oh, okay, and that's the 11,000.
Yep. Yes, sir. So like,
So that's, we really can't go away from that because it's code.
well, you could do like an FRP or something that's cheaper than a tile. We put in ceramic tile because it's, you know, these are all forward facing restrooms, right? You can cheapen it up a little bit certainly, and I'm not trying to poke at you to say don't do that. But I would not recommend going away from it, especially like out in these restrooms here where you're gonna have people coming in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Maybe ones in the back that are only employee or something, those things we can talk about.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you've got, just talking about the casework a little bit, you've got a good amount of casework in that utility room. You've got some tall cabinets that I put in there. You've got an additional, a sink that was added late, and then some lower cabinets in that utility room. You know, that's another section of casework too that could take out, you know, it puts less stuff in that utility room, but it's not taking away from a specific department at that point.
And what function do those?
Well, your utility room has your relocated fire washer, your drying rack, and another piece of fire equipment that we're relocating. It's got an added washer and dryer in there. So the way I was seeing you guys use that is everybody comes there to kind of clean up, wash. If there's a messy police day, it's an excellent room for people just to clean up, to get everything clean, organized. It's got built-in space for you guys to keep, you know, each department's cleaning products if you've got separate things. It's got those tall cabinets you can use in whatever way you want, but it's really just trying to give you guys back of house storage space that can be well organized and maintained and kind of accounted for.
I think there's value in that.
Would that be something where it might make sense to go like metal and modular so you can move it around as stuff
Yeah, you could.
like changes? Cause it seems to always do that around here.
We kind of tell people that, you know, you could do it that way. It's a great thought, as in, you know, we might change in the future. Our needs might change. I like to think that I'm listening to you all. I'm giving you a space that's going to be able to serve you well into the future, and is designed in a way that is going to be fitting for you all. That's not to say I'm right. You know, if you wanted to put casters on all those things and make it so they could move, it's an option. But I find most times those things don't get moved, or by the time it happens, maybe the idea changes, right? You don't want to do that anymore.
Anything else?
What is the special construction section? What's that refer to?
What page are you on? Oh, right here. I see it, Division 13.
Yeah.
Those are broken out that way just because we get our liner panel through like suppliers we have. And I guess that's just the section Mark put it in. We get our liner panel through different suppliers, I guess then you would see into section 5,
What
which
is liner panel?
isn't there. Like corrugated steel.
Oh.
Yeah, it's broken out in a funny section. I guess I couldn't tell you why explicitly.
And then under HVAC there, you've got allowance, and I see allowance in a few other spots. What is that?
Well, the sprinkling is an allowance, but we've actually had a firm look at that and give us a design number. But as far as like the plumbing and the HVAC, those are just allowances, because we haven't hard bid those through people. We've gotten narratives written from some engineers, but nobody's drawn duct plans or really and torn apart the space, figure out exactly what fittings they need, what have you.
So do we have to have sprinkling
Yes.
in parts of the building?
You have to have sprinkling throughout the building. The way I've reviewed it on the second page and what the next architect is gonna see is that if you had a little bit of insulation or you verify that the insulation does exist in your truss system right now, then you would negate the need for an attic sprinkler, the dry system in there that you see for the 50,000.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's one that I'm gonna put on the alternate list too, because we're feeling pretty good about that one. Being able to be gone with pretty much no work.
And you said these electrical upgrades under Division 16, that was for like automatic light switches and
Yep.
whatnot?
Yes, sir. And those are substantial. You think that maybe that doesn't make too big of a difference, right? You're like, why am I paying $20,000 for just a bunch of equipment that I'm never gonna see? But it really does make a big difference in your energy savings when literally nobody has to think about a light. You walk in, they turn on, you walk out, they turn off. It's a nice sunny day, they dim. It's more overcast, they turn on. It's a really nice luxury and it's like this modern convenience we can have in new renovated buildings. You get really fancy integrated light systems.
Yeah, well, and it'd be interesting to estimate a return on investment for that in terms of energy savings. How many years would it take to
Yeah, totally.
pay 19,000 off?
Yeah, that's one of those items too. You get the right electrical engineer, they're gonna be able to tell you that sort of thing.
And you're replacing everything with LED lights?
Yes, sir. Mhm. Yep, you'll get new grids everywhere, new LEDs everywhere. That's another item that me personally, I just think if you're gonna renovate a space and you leave the old ceiling in there, you don't really realize how off-white it is or maybe old it looks until you put a new one in there. But the new ACTs and lights are gonna make this place look really, really sharp.
Gonna be more like daylight lights rather versus the.
That's kind of up to, those are later conversations that you spec out. I'd say, yeah, sure, get the daylight ones. I mean, most LED lights are gonna be a little bit
At least
more.
in the offices. I
Yeah.
think.
And there's like a couple offices back here that don't actually have any windows, but they do have. In all the offices I included wood doors, wood frames with a full height side light. So they have a 2 foot by a 7 foot light that's gonna be able to put light as far back into the space as you can. And kind of provide that actual natural daylighting opportunity for the people that don't get the window offices.
Be a good place?
I think so. You're gonna send over with another column in there with ones that you think,
What I'm probably gonna do is I use software called Bluebeam. I can just add a bunch of little notes. I'm gonna put on a bunch of hot pink notes in some areas where I think that you could save some money.
Yeah.
If that's good with you.
that'd be wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Cody and CJ.
Oh, one more question.
Oh.
At the top here, you got 2,759,000, and at the bottom here, you got 2,678,000. What's the difference?
Oh, right up here.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
The 3% overage.
Probably, yeah, it could be a 3% contingency, I guess. But I can do that for you. They send the guy who doesn't actually put the estimate together, so you can. Right.
We like working with you.
Hey, I appreciate that. I hope that you still say that when this is all done. Oh,
Yeah, it is.
and that's what it is, the difference. CJ's smarter than I am. Yep, that's it right there. Sure, thanks for pointing that out. I was looking at this like that 2.6 was your final number. You are at 2,759 with that 3% contingency added.
Okay.
Then we'll let you guys chat about this, kind of duke it out amongst yourselves. Tomorrow I'll go ahead and send you this updated list. So I expect maybe to hear from you, Elizabeth, by the end of the week or maybe a little bit after in terms of how you want us to proceed. Does that sound okay? Okay, great. All right, well, thank you
Thanks,
all so
everyone.
much.
Appreciate it.
It sounds like though we will be proceeding with an RFP just with a couple of things that are more, provide us with a budget of base plus these are kind of the alternates.
Certainly, yep, and yeah, thanks for saying that. I think you're right on cue. And I'll be good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And thanks for accommodating the slightly later start time.
No problem at all. Just don't talk about us when we leave. Try and put all my stuff away as quickly as I can.
Don't worry, everybody's watching you.
Is the city watching me? Is this recorded?
It is recorded. You
just
have
the-
a YouTube channel.
Is it just the audio or the visual too?
Visual too.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad I dressed like an architect today.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item of discussion, the 611 Lincoln Avenue Control Burn Agreement.
Miss Marissa.
It is. A little backstory, 611 was a hazardous substandard building, that we've been working with the now owner to remove it. And we've been in talks with them since early last year. We think we're finally at a place that we can get a controlled burn agreement in place. The fire department has expressed they would like a written agreement so that we know that we can actually go forward with it and that we are protected from any type of liability as well as the homeowner. So then we're just looking for a controlled burn agreement between the city, fire department, and the homeowner.
That's what you have on the agenda. The garage was moved off the property this weekend.
Yes.
We'll call for a motion to approve this agreement to control burn 611 Lincoln Avenue.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Baumgartner to burn 611 Lincoln Avenue down. Any further discussion?
When you say it like that.
Okay, yeah.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Okay.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you,
Thanks,
Chief.
Marissa.
Chief.
Is
Oh,
Chief
are you currently both chief?
Kevin is the actual chief.
You're not a
Kevin is
chief
the actual
anymore?
chief.
You're out? He's in? Oh.
All right, we're gonna redirect quick. We'll move into the next item here. We're going to quickly review the summary rules for public comment, just so everybody's aware of.
These are new. You have to pass you can discuss and pass these tonight if you'd like to.
Okay,
Just to give you a little bit of backstory, it has been brought to our attention by our city attorney that there have been these groups that have gone around Minnesota and found city council Zoom meetings and have logged on to public comment and have really discussed pretty inappropriate things that are out of the purview of the city and have used derogatory remarks and things like that. And so that prompted us as city staff to kind of review our own public comment policy. There didn't seem to be a really focused specific one. So I took some research with other city councils to see what their public comment policy was and put together these essentially 13 types of rules for public comment. You'll be very familiar. It's a 3-minute time frame. Comments from the public are allowed only during the public forum. The biggest change is that if you'd like to offer public comment, you either need to be here in person or you need to pre-register if you would like to use the virtual platform by emailing or calling the city. And then we will know that we need to unmute you and we'll let you know you have 3 minutes and things like that. Also, it's a election season. So again, no campaigning is allowed during public comment. We wanted to put that in there, and that the remarks must be related to city business and under the city's jurisdiction. We don't need people coming in here talking about federal issues, which you all have no jurisdiction to weigh in on. That kind of derails the meeting. So these were kind of the new things. Happy to have any adjustments or comments, but this is what I thought we'd propose to you this evening.
Are you sure we can't change the First Amendment here? It's been brought up before.
No, so pursuant to the Minnesota open meeting law, we are not a platform, the city council meetings are not a platform for public expression. So we can kind of take a moment to adjust these guidelines.
Yeah, I thought the guidelines looked fair. So I just want to remind the public that we have a lot of really great specialists on staff here at City Hall. And a lot of times when we get presented with issues that we have no heads up on here at the council chambers, we don't have background information to properly address a lot of these concerns. So I just kind of, obviously, if you have city business, you're definitely welcome to come and talk about it at council meetings. But as efficiency and as best practices, my recommendation is that you contact the appropriate city staffer and help develop your idea or help develop your concerns, and then bring them forward to us or have the staff member bring it forward. Because, if it's a zoning thing and you come into the council chambers and you meet with us and we don't have any background information on the whys of some of the zoning laws we have out there, you're not going to get as good of help as if you went through the proper channels like Marissa. So take advantage of, that's not the right word, utilize the resources you have in front of you with your city staff, because they are the experts. They come to us with recommendations, and ultimately it's the council's decision to set these policies, but we rely on these experts as well. So my recommendation to the public is to do the same thing. You pay for these people, so don't hesitate to call them. So
Need a motion.
we'll call for a motion to approve the adjusted or the new public comment protocol.
So moved.
I have one question, I
Oh.
guess, before that. It's a summary of rules. Does that mean there's more rules?
There's not. That's just, I can change the title, the rules for
Can we
public
change
comment.
the
Sure.
rules to not say summary?
Sure, we
Oh,
could
they
change it to
expanded?
rules for public comment. Absolutely.
Expanded rules for public comment. Call for a motion to approve the rules for public comment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Landon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We're here to talk about the pool.
Do you want to kick things off or do you?
Oh,
want me to
we're gonna let me
kick it
kick it off. We'll kick it off by letting Tracy.
Right.
Invite Tracy
We
to
have
the.
Tracy here.
Okay, we'll not invite Tracy to the floor. So last week on Thursday, some city staff and I participated in a meeting with the city, I am the city, with the school district and their new building people and their two representatives from the pool board. The main topic of discussion were the financial implications to the pool of their remodel project and its scope and everything like that. Long and the short of it is that if we're going to move forward with the remodel plan as stated, the pool as a whole is on the hook for about $1.5 million of the remodel costs. And the meaning of that to the city is that we have until roughly September-ish to come up with $750,000 to fund it. Now, we do think there might be wiggle room in that. Probably not a lot, like not a substantial amount, but maybe some. And just because of how public financing works, we'd probably bond for that and finance it over 20 years. That being said, on top of the operation costs of the pool as current, we'd be adding my back of the napkin math, which isn't worth a whole hell of a lot. About $60,000 of annual payments on top of that. And I think currently our contribution is about $40,000.
That's what we budget, but I typically don't make that.
So we would be over doubling our commitment to the pool. Not only that, reading between the lines in that meeting, it seems like the school, excluding the actual renovation costs, it doesn't seem like the school has much of an appetite to continue increasing their funding on the operational side.
This is just for discussion and awareness. This is not a, let's make a motion on what to
No.
do with the pool. This is just, I want people to have information. Because yeah, it's about an annual payment of $60,000, 2023. The city contribution to the pool's operating expenses was over $38,000. So
So-
that 60,000 would be on top of the city's contribution every year for the pool.
And so my big takeaway from that meeting and what I asked Superintendent Menton and their board members to do is to take this information back to the full school board to discuss their commitment to the future of the pool and do some soul searching to make sure that they're in it for the next 20 years. And I truly believe that we also need to have that same discussion here. Tracy and Mr. Menton and Elizabeth are going to put together kind of a type of presentation to give a more full picture of what everything of the financial situation and how it has gone and how it is going at the pool. But it's just one of those things where you need to walk into it with eyes wide open because it's expensive. And as much as we currently support the pool as it is, we're looking at least doubling that, if not significantly more.
So we'd be going from
40,000 to 100,000 basically
A year.
a year.
And that's just our half.
Mhm.
And we don't know if the school's committed to their half yet.
We don't know if the city's committed to our half even.
Right,
That-
but no,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, has the school said yes, for sure?
Well, the school is the school, how do they put this? This is outside the scope of their bonding, but of the referendum, but they feel that they will have other monies freed up to pay for it. So as far as they're concerned, they can handle doing the construction cost side of it. It seemed to, and they also have some other improvements that it'll be very synergistic with the other stuff they're planning in their in the referendum plans.
So it's
But
$1 million of operating costs in 5 years?
what's that?
It's $1 million of operating costs in 5 years?
What is? The pool, it's $40,000, so it'd
No, I
be
mean, moving forward, it would be.
$1 million in $1 million every 5 years for both combined at this point,
And
roughly.
I mean, that the 60,000 wouldn't necessarily be for operating costs. It's paying off the bond for the
Yeah,
building
so-
improvement.
I was gonna say, wouldn't say operating costs, it's more of costs.
Sure. Everything.
And then plus, I think we've discussed at length at pool board meetings that, we have not been keeping up with the capital needs at the pool. It's been deferred.
Mhm.
Granted, some of the repairs wipe a lot of things off that list. Don't get me wrong, so there's a possibility that we'd see lower operating costs just because we wouldn't be replacing some of the stuff as currently planned, but it's not anything I would count on heavily. I don't think it's enough to make a substantial difference in the situation that we currently find ourselves in.
What is the repairs that need to be done is what's wrong?
Well, they have a
Yes.
wall that's falling apart.
So the project scope right now is $209,000. That's 400. Replace pool locker room air handler and add dehumidification. Replacing AHUs in pool, including dehumidification and utility metering is $672,000, 700. The pool boiler replacement, 96,400. Pool exterior facade, which is the wall, that's very concerning if you're walking around that area, 351,600. Wall finishes, 7,900. Lockers replacements to make things ADA, 26,500. And then the Alta pool cover blanket replacement, 49,600. That is all that's currently included in the project scope that was proposed by Nexus.
And
And there was some discussion about some wiggle room with locker replacements, and things like that.
yeah, but honestly, the HVAC stuff that's that's your big ticket item. It's over half of it. Um,
But, excuse me, when I priced it out before COVID, it was about 3 to 350 to do the HVAC, and that was 5, 6 years ago, so
so
it doesn't surprise me that it's doubled.
I guess the other thing we'll call it the curveball I threw at them is every single one of the school's plans, whether we have a pool or not, involves them fixing that outside wall. So
That's true.
we can shove it onto them.
Yeah, is there any way they could just take,
Well-
I mean,
Yeah, but that's still, let's pretend they took 100% of that cost. We would still be looking at probably $50,000 bond payments every year. So while it, again, a very big number, don't get me wrong, I don't know that it changes the facts in front of us. And it's not something they'd agreed to or have agreed to or probably would agree to at this point.
but if we don't agree to it, they'll fix it anyway.
Yeah, as I say,
They'll fix the locker rooms too.
well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But at that point, it's their problem, not our problem. If they wanna leave it empty, if they wanna fill it in, make it a gym, if they wanna do whatever, that's fine, but that would be after we decide to end the joint powers, if that was the direction we were going to move towards. The other thing that I had asked at the meeting is if we could, we'll call it do minimal repairs to the interior and just run it as is for now. And how long that would last us. And the consultants at Nexus didn't seem to think that the pool would be operational in the next 5 years. And with everything being in its current condition, excluding the building envelope, I was like, fine, whatever, throw away the building envelope, but what if we left it as it is and ran it until it died?
Just rotten.
They seem to think that dying was closer than farther away. And I think a lot of that has to do with the air handling stuff. I mean, it's an indoor pool, it's humid, it's a thing. So, like, and we're not taking any action on this right now. My ask for you guys is to do some soul searching on this and what do you, and just ask yourself if you feel like this is the correct use and the best use of the city funds that we would be sinking into it for the next 20 years. With keeping in mind that we are one of the only public pools in the county at this point. Well, because Renville's pretty close to shutting down. Fairfax still has theirs. Hector has closed theirs.
Oh, yeah.
Their referendum is reopening it.
They have a
Okay.
referendum to okay, so,
So if we do close it down, we'll probably end up reopening.
well,
Well, they got it passed in their referendum that they just did.
Get a lot more use potentially.
but if they're gonna reopen theirs, then that's a moot point. It'll,
There still isn't anything.
So the
Yeah, it's an outdoor pool.
50 years old.
Tracy, do you want to come up here if you're gonna talk? Otherwise,
I would
That's how we
appreciate
hear
that.
it.
I need it for the public record.
And you get to state your name.
Yes.
And I get to what?
State your name.
Oh, okay. My name is Tracy Johnson. I'm the pool coordinator. The pool is 50 years old. And so keep in mind that even with the repairs, it still has a shelf life. We have done extensive repairs to several things due to the fire. We still aren't open yet, but we hope to be soon. We're very close. We're working on water chemistry right at the moment. Took a picture of the controller before I came, so I know we're heading the right direction. We have a lot of people who utilize the pool year round. But we understand that the wall and all of the repairs are extensive that we have put off for many years, as Landon described. As I stated just a few minutes ago, I did price out an HVAC system 5, 6 years ago. I only got one bid because a lot of people didn't want to touch it. But it was at least something I could put on my CIP list, and it was about $300 to $350 at that point in time. The wall will be repaired, as Lyndon said, regardless of what we decide here or in the near future. Nexus is going to do this project in conjunction with the other projects and the referendum, so it does reduce our costs slightly. The boilers being moved is part of the fact that the school is creating a mechanical room in a different location. So it's not that we have a non-functioning system, because we certainly do, but it's part of the new design of the school that would move those. Tarps, you know, some of the smaller costs, again, probably have a little wiggle room here and there. I do think it's a positive for us to continue to have a pool this size. Based on a recommendation from somebody, I Googled a little and found the price tag of a brand new pool that would be similar to what we have, not identical, about $10 million, and that was in 2017. So,
Say it's 4 now.
or 10.5, something to that effect. But so assume that 5+ years have gone by, and that is a much larger number today, if you decided to do that. That was in Chaska. A city that has multiple pools, but has a growing population, so, and teams and clubs and other organizations that use all of their pools quite extensively. It is, as Tom Callahar said many, many times, a life skill that we think is beneficial in the land of 10,000 lakes, rivers, sloughs, and 10,000 plus, I should say. I do think that all people should have some water safety at least. And we do try to provide that with a lot of different programs, including lessons during school time, migrant program. We try to include some safety lessons as much as we can so that everybody is smarter about being in and around the water. We do have a club team, and we have, of course, adults who participate in water exercise with a bunch of ailments, which may or may not make them swimmers, but it does allow them to exercise a little more weightless to allow them a better way of life, so to speak, by keeping active, as well as lap swimmers. And then, of course, we offer a few more programs as well. I will put together a little package. I worked on it this weekend, but didn't get it finished. So I'll share that, as well as I'll try to reach out to some of our patrons so that they know that this is on the table for both the school district and yourself.
Have you ever looked to see if there's public-private partnerships we can expand on or talk to neighboring cities? And has that ever been done to, I mean,
I have not done that. I do a lot of the training for other pools because we are indoor pools and the other ones are outdoor pools. I've done trainings for Redwood, and not all their staff, but a portion of their staff. I've done trainings for Fairfax, Hector at one point in time, and Renville. I've even done some trainings for some people in Wilmer and a few other places outside of Renville County. But partnerships, I know the Y has been mentioned since they are now working with community ed and providing programs, but other than a brief conversation, I have not. We are very unique in the respect that we have two organizations with over, what did that original, I just wrote it in my notes. Well, a document was signed in 1968 after the old pool was closed with citizens from both the city and the school district. At that point in time, it was just Olivia, that they wanted a pool to be replaced because there was none at that point in time because the old one had to be shut down. And it took them several years. The school, if I remember correctly, bonded for it, and then the city made payments back over the course of many years, which is why I brought it up at our meeting. But that wasn't on the table either.
does the hospital have any, would they have any interest?
So we've had that conversation on and off since I took this job. Unfortunately, We have a single pool with a T shape, as I'm sure you're aware. And we keep our temps low enough that therapy isn't always something that works in that kind of temperature. They prefer, the Arthritis Association and a lot of therapists prefer it to be a little bit closer to bath water because they are working on range of motion and they're not moving much. And they're trying to be lighter on their feet, of course, depending on what the injury is, but it also is a little on the cold side for some of that therapy, depending on what it is, of course.
I mean, I think we gotta just think about the fact that there are people that use that pool and the swimming lessons are really important, you know? And it's an indoor pool. It's the only one, and where's the next one?
I believe Hutchinson, Wilmer, New Ulm, and Granite Falls, the Kilowatt Center.
I don't believe all of you. Just kidding.
So Granite Falls?
I know, but to do anything, I usually do it in town, most things in town. So like, it's nice to have an indoor pool, to have the ability to have our kids locally here to go swimming and get their swimming lessons.
I will tell you on a personal note, when I've been doing the 5th and 6th grade classes, just in the last couple of years since COVID, I was surprised by the number of students who had very little comfort level or skills. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, I was just surprised by the number.
The trend.
Mhm. So I will have some more information. I put some history. I've put some positives about having a pool in your community. And I have some statistics. I just haven't fine-tuned them since Friday morning, but I will have that document ready. And also I hope to have my letter kind of finalized and out to some of the patrons as well.
The pool included in the comprehensive plan or no?
It has been mentioned, mainly in the Parks and Recreation chapter that we do have one.
Yeah.
And one of the things that came out of this Thursday meeting is that, myself, Mr. Menton, Tracy, were asked to put together a presentation, for the school board and the city council to review and take more formal motion. So we'll all be working together as a team to make sure that the presentation that the school board receives is the same as the presentation that the city receives, so everybody can be on the same page.
Is there any way to reach out to Hector and see what made them decide to reopen the pool?
Sure.
Because I think if we were to keep,
Onto their school board.
Yeah, I was
School
gonna say, it was
referendum.
part of their school referendum.
Yeah.
with-
right, but somebody missed it to pass that, to allow that to pass. You know what I mean?
There was, from what I understood, there were several comments in the paper. I get the
Been very
Berkeley Union, the paper. And several citizens, even outside in the country, I think there were a couple of small business owners, farmers, that type of thing, who wanted to see it resurrected and repaired.
And what I'm saying is, are we gonna end up with that situation in Olivia if we decide against it and then the price tag?
I've already had more than a few emails, text messages and et cetera, hoping that once the pool is open, that we can bring back more than what we were doing, or at least similar to what we were doing. I am a little short-staffed, but as soon as we can get kids in the water, I hope to walk the halls and recruit a little bit more.
The elephant in the room though is their pool is outside. I've never seen a building need to be replaced to cover a pool outside. And they don't need an HVAC system because the air.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's a,
but what would it cost for us to have a pool outside?
guess that'd be a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think this is a deciding of if we have a pool in this city or not.
And that's why I'm saying, like, so
It-
Hector decided we're gonna close, and then they're like, never mind, we need to reopen. Are we gonna end up, is Olivia gonna end up in that same?
Maybe, but it's a very different proposition. Because
That's apples and oranges right there.
let's say that's a big indoor building that is literally falling apart. If you can stick your hand through the wall. And I'm not saying that I want to close the pool. I'm saying that everyone needs to put a lot of thought into this because it is a very important decision this is as important a decision as our city hall remodel probably in dollars for the next 20 years. So it's not something to be taken lightly, in my opinion.
Which is why we wanted to discuss it, so everybody has a
Yes.
lot of time to think about it, to talk to community members.
And the other thing is because yours truly is going to be in Mexico in 2 weeks, school board has to go first. So we're gonna have more information than they do.
So the plan is to have a pool board meeting so that these two members and the school's two members can sit and have a conversation, because there was one school member who wasn't there.
Yep.
And then possibly do some more fact finding, some more soul searching.
You're gonna be here Thursday.
Yeah.
You're still here.
Yep.
Thursday.
And then come up with that presentation that will be identical to what the school's presenting. They present on the 26th, I believe, and you guys will have your meeting the following Monday. And Nexus would like an answer in March.
Yeah, they're holding off on putting out the RFP because we need to make this decision first so they know what the full project scope is. And they need an answer as quick as possible. And honestly, we need to, we have reserves to soak up $750,000 short term, but we also need to get our financing ducks in a row on this too. It's not simple. Like this is not a quick project at all. It's quick in the realms of construction, but our work of our side of the work it's gonna be a little time consuming for Sean.
Is there any talk of the hospital building a pool?
So I just had emails, which is why I didn't get my reports done timely. An email exchange with Jackie, because that came up in a conversation, and she said it all depends on how much money they get, of course, but their plan is a therapeutic pool, possibly two, that they might be able to hold classes in, but not necessarily a pool of 25 yards or a pool that could hold lessons.
As I say, I have not seen any plans that would indicate that it could possibly be a replacement for what we have currently, or even.
So it wouldn't be like a public pool that kids could go to? No.
I got the impression from her that it would be therapeutic, and it would be in their therapeutic department or in their therapeutic area. Yeah.
I don't think they're.
She presented to the EDA a couple months ago. And yeah, there were small therapeutic pools. There's nothing, you'd hold like less than 10 kids or 25 kids. Yeah.
So a class would be like an arthritis class where everybody had a diagnosis, and it would be a class of 5 to 10 people. or
Oh,
something.
okay,
Yeah,
not like.
not like swimming lessons.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we could work with them and they built a bigger one that would accommodate classes, and then we could close this one without removing the amenity from the city and somehow incentivize them, like we could send them some money to make a bigger one.
There are grants for, let's see. I talked to Dan about this several years ago already, like a build a pool kind of conference that tells you how to go about that. But I didn't dive into it because at that point in time, we were still okay, so.
And then if we close the pool down, then the school, do you know what the school will want to do with that space?
They'll utilize it.
Gym space, I presume?
I would assume, so the locker rooms would become the visiting locker rooms permanently versus me sharing them, I would assume, and potentially, classroom space or gym space or whatever.
It's outside the scope of what we need to deal with.
Right, I'm just curious. And then.
But the answer needs to be in March, right? We don't really
Correct.
have a long time to figure out.
We don't, because the list, even if we have a little wiggle room, isn't gonna change dramatically.
I mean, if you.
So it's not like what you've just discussed. I mean, the list is
The list.
fairly straightforward.
Say if if we can move the list down 5%, I would be surprised.
Yeah.
Like it's that set, pretty well set.
Well, and just to spell out what I think you guys understand, I'm thinking about what if we can help the hospital build a bigger one so
That's
that.
not even remotely close to a for sure thing. If they don't get bonding
They don't-
from the state,
They're gonna.
they won't know till May.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, there.
the timing doesn't line up.
So we have to make this decision without
Yeah, we can't
considering
count on that.
that. And like I said, the only positive we have is if the school makes a decision before us. One of their two decisions, if they say no, then it's over. Well, unless the city feels like doing $1.5 million pool,
100%.
which I really think would not be, right, but,
Just put it out there. If we decide that we value a pool in this community, this probably is the most economical way to move forward and still have a pool.
most likely.
I agree. I mean, based on just a few of the newer pools and even a huge, remodel. It's a building that even though the wall is slightly damaged, the HVAC system is specifically for the pool that would be off their list if the school took over the building itself.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be, let's be honest, that's more or less, that's,
I guess I'd like to know what the overall public support is for it, before I
well, and
really
that's,
make a decision.
and I think that's what we have to figure out is what the public support is. Not only at the city level, but the school level, because while the constituents are the same in a large part, there are a lot of people outside
Yeah.
the city that pay for the pool because they pay the school levy as much as any of the rest of us do. So
Our job is to consider what our constituents.
our job is our half. That's my thoughts. And so if I would love it if we would just see a groundswell of support and for all the city to come out and say, yes, this is an amenity we need.
well, it'd
But-
be nice to know if we could communicate with the public, try to get some feedback from them, say, okay, if we bond for this is $750,000. This is what it'll mean to $500,000 for the property value. It'll cost you X dollars more a
Well,
month.
that'd be extremely expensive and time consuming to do, but
We can look at what type of, staff can look at what type of options we have just to at least get some anecdotal information
Yes.
about the pool, perhaps put out a poll on Facebook or something. I mean, don't hold a
Informal.
scientific microscope to it. It has to be more informal, but we can certainly try to help gauge. And then, I mean, you all are talking to people every day.
You said it's 100,000 a year is what we're looking at.
we'll be looking at an extra 60. I think that's what,
On top of the 40 we have, so 100,000 a year.
But
Divide
we're
that
already
across,
doing the 40,
Yeah.
right.
so
so
it'd only be the $60,000 increase if you were to look at it that way.
we'll still be doing the 40 for the next 5
So,
years.
so that would be the
Next
kind of,
forever.
that would be the question I would want to ask the public is like, okay, roughly this is gonna cost you an extra, I'll just make up a number, $100 a year on your taxes. Is that worth it to you?
Is that
Do you want to pay that?
close to what our levy increase was this year?
Per 100,000 roughly?
I don't remember what our levy increase did this year or in your dollars.
I do have some information. I will work on it in the next day or two and we'll discuss it at the JPA. And I have a letter to the patrons who are regulars, who are not just Olivia citizens, so.
I mean, I know there's strong feelings about it.
Yeah.
For sure, there are, I mean,
People who supported
Right.
very vigorously.
And that's why I almost want more, that's why I want more feedback from the public. If people are listening, let me know. What do you want to do? This one's a tough one.
It is tough. Thursday was a tough conversation.
Yeah, when you're talking about a 50-year-old pool, there's tough conversations there, but
well, because there's a lifespan on the bowl itself, isn't there at some point?
There is, because of, new code, of course, and of course, there are pipes that are buried deep underneath the ground that we we don't have any control over or any access to. In early 2000s, they repiped a lot of the pipe underneath the pool from like cast iron to PVC, and the city was deeply involved in that project, and Dave was. That was obviously before my time, but you have a file on it. And that significantly increased the life of the pool because it was kind of like this. We either have to make a major overhaul or we have to fold.
It was discussed that Nexus believed in making these repairs, the pool would last
The next-
25, 30 years. So I mean, the pool would outlive the
Yeah.
bonding.
And so that was one of the main things that I had asked was, if we spend this, will the pool last that long? And they were very confident that it would.
Okay.
Our filter system is 20 years old, like when we repiped. And that filter system is no longer being made. It's been discontinued. So there are a handful of things that didn't get replaced with the fire, but the wall and the HVAC are the biggest ticket items on that list, as well as moving the boilers to accommodate the renovation on the school side.
And they absolutely have to move them.
Yep. It's the way they're redesigning and making everything. Yes.
And so we're being forced into that by their project.
Yeah, so that's what was
It,
wondering.
it doesn't make me feel good by any means, like that, especially that one in particular. And even the school or the building envelope, so the wall, it's still kind of is this really our problem or is it your guys' problem?
Hmm.
But still, if you're looking at a $500,000 project, that's still a big discussion to be had. Cause I think getting rid of those two items is about $500,000 of the project.
We gotta look at that envelope deterioration as being closely related to the pool.
It is closely related, but my
It
point.
might have something to do with, we're not 100%.
No, and it is, but my point is that's a school, that's a cost the school is gonna. The boilers are not, but the wall is a cost the school is going to take over regardless of what happens
Yeah.
with this.
Right.
So as much as they said, well, maybe we're only willing to support the pool of X amount of dollars per year, I could make that argument just as easily
Right.
on our side. So it's really what it comes down to is do both organizations have the stomach for it for the next 20 years? We're in two different situations, kind of, but our situations are relatively similar in that we both have to be budget conscious. So, yeah, like I said, I'm glad we're going second. We'll put it that way.
Right. That might just give us the answer,
And
whether or not we
it-
agree with it.
Right. And I think whatever. Yeah, I'm glad we're going second.
Contact your school board member.
That's right.
All right. Any other questions for me? I'm sorry, I didn't come very well prepared.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Discussion.
No, that's fine.
Tracy's like, this is why I wanted to sit.
You gotta end with good news though, so what's the good news?
Our water chemistry is very close to us reopening
Cool.
a year later.
Yeah, it's a year and what?
February 8th.
Let me say one more week, right?
Yeah.
I was in Mexico last time that happened.
I was not here either.
Our pool board meeting will be the year, February 8th.
It will be.
Wow.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Landon.
So wait, can we have the meeting in the pool?
I mean, you can ask
Shop
her.
classroom.
I was gonna
It's
say,
in the shop classroom and that email will be arriving in your email box about 20 minutes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, can you help me work on the numbers, like what I asked for? Is that possible to get some of that information?
Yes, the numbers were the project scope, yearly expenses. What else did you need?
you want property tax implications.
Yeah, like
Oh,
what's it
private
mean
tax, okay.
to this average citizen?
Sure.
So one of the things I had asked for is, I consider it basically a park, just one that happens to be indoor and very wet.
Uh-huh.
it's a large part of our parks budget, but it's honestly not out of line when you consider what we have 9 parks in town. Maybe what, 7 of them are real parks probably.
Yeah.
And I think we decided it was about 13% of the budget. I don't want to be exact. It's like
That's what you hired me to do.
Yeah. The pool is like 13% of the parks budget, so it's
Okay,
in line with the cost of a park at current.
okay,
So
that frames it.
and that's how I think of it too, because I'm not under any illusions that the pool's ever gonna make money or not cost us anything.
Mhm.
That's just
Right.
not realistic.
Right.
But
It's also, we're never gonna get it back if we don't repair it.
that's the thing, is I think this is a discussion of the future, if we have a pool or not.
Yeah.
Or at a minimum, it's if we have an indoor pool, because let's pretend we go the Hector route and 10 years from now, they decide they want a pool. Sure as heck ain't gonna be indoors. And it's probably not gonna be connected to the pool, the school.
And it's not gonna be $750,000 either.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. Well, 1.5 million.
Yeah, well, she said.
We get half-
building one
we get
like
half
that
of
is
it
like
too.
10 million bucks, so.
Well, because that's the thing is this probably leads to dissolution of the joint powers. So then if we have a pool in the
Who's gonna
future,
make it? The
is it
school?
going to be the
city?
school? Is it gonna be the city? Is it gonna be all of us plus the hospital? Doubt it, but you never know.
Doubt a private entity's gonna come in.
So it's a very impactful discussion, in my opinion.
I mean, the pool has to be.
That's
For
true.
sure.
Okay, moving down to reports, I think we can skip A. Let's hear more. No.
Yeah, I think we got that.
Any other reports from council? Any reports from staff? All right, any notices or communications?
We have a YouTube channel.
We do have a YouTube channel.
Check us out on YouTube.
Yep.
Make sure you
Follow and
subscribe with a star and a bell.
Subscribe. Yeah, absolutely.
Share the
I-
videos.
The last I checked, we had 4 subscribers.
Can we monetize that and make money with our YouTube
I was
views?
gonna say
It
that.
depends on, you have to have so many subscribers.
Kind of politician.
Subscribers.
Okay, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So, or second.
Motion's been made by Paterno, seconded by Evers to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Bye.
All opposed, same sign.
Whoa.
That was nice and official.
Really?
I always think of like.
time you've ever.
Numbers, I didn't know.
I know.